There's a lot of confusion going around about this £150 energy rebate, which is coming via the council tax system here in England, Scotland and Wales. In Northern Ireland, slightly different. You're getting the money, but it's done in a different way. So this video hopefully will make it a little bit clearer of who can get the money and how you get the money. And also maybe when you'll get it, because it's not at the start of April as I think a lot of us hoped it would be. So first of all, very, very quickly what this is. So the government knew, as we all did, that energy prices were getting out of control. Very, very, very difficult for pretty much every household to really manage this massive increase that's happening at the start of April. There's going to be another one later this year, but just this one right now we're dealing with. And that's off the back of ones that happened last year as well. But anyway, what they said was they were going to give 150 quid in April via the council tax system to households in bands A, B, C or D. Okay. Now the council tax system goes all the way to H, but most people apparently it's about 70% of households are going to be in bands A, B, C and D. And the reason they chose this method was because they wanted to try and target some of those who are going to be most at need. And in theory, if your house is A, B, C or D, it means it's a smaller house and therefore you're going to have less money. Doesn't technically work like that because as we know all around the country things are mad in terms of how property prices have changed. And also those bands were selected back in 1991, often by someone just driving past a house and going, yep, that's a B, that's an F, that whatever it might be. So there's probably a lot of errors in there. But anyway, that's how it's decided. So bands A, B, C and D. So if you live in one of those properties, doesn't matter what your income is, doesn't matter if you're really struggling right now, if you're flush with cash, you'll get that £150 because of the energy prices via the council tax system. And we'll get to that in a second. Now, if you are outside those bands, it doesn't mean you can't get the money, but you won't necessarily get it directly. If you are in band E, but you get a discount down to D because of disability support, then you will automatically be covered from what I've seen. But every council we get to does this differently, so it's worth checking that. Don't just assume it's going to come. Definitely check that if that sounds like you, because it drops you down a band. So from E to D, you're going to be in that mix. You're also going to be eligible for this if you are in bands A, B, C and D and you get a discount already. Perhaps you are a student household where you're all students in the house and you don't pay any council tax already. Well, you're still going to be eligible for that because you're still in bands A, B, C or D. You're going to be eligible for it if you are a household where it's just under 18s living there. Quite rare, but that can happen obviously, so you'll be eligible as well. There's also about severe mental impairment. If that is you, if that you're impacted by that and you've kind of already gone through the system in terms of the discounts because of that, then also you'll be eligible in bands A, B, C and D. So that's England, Scotland and Wales, but in Wales it does go a step further as well, because if you receive council tax reduction in Wales, then in bands E to H, then you're also going to get that £150 via this system. So that's who gets it. And importantly, I should say as well, the 1st of April 2022, that seems to be the main cut-off, at least in England, for when the house has to have been in that band, you know, and you have to be in that house and so forth. If you are in Wales, it looks like there might be an earlier date of 15th of February, but again, not 100% on that. There's still a lot of information that's not fully out there. But that's the cut-off for those things. So if you were to have a new build that wasn't built yet and you move in a couple of months, doesn't matter, that won't count. It has to be from the 1st of April 2022. So that's who can get the £150 rebate. So you might be thinking, hang on, I'm not in that section. What about me? Well, there is a kind of a fund, which we'll come to later on, a discretionary fund, and I'll explain that in a minute. And it might be a place for you to be able to apply and get some cash. How much? So I'll come back to that. So that 150 quid is yours to keep. It's not like the £200 that is coming in October, which you will have to pay back. That's coming via the energy bills rather than the council tax system, okay? This 150 quid is like it's a rebate, it's a freebie. You would get it, okay? Don't have to worry about that. So once it's gone, don't worry about paying it back. Next question is, how are you going to get it, okay? And again, it's not that simple. In Scotland, actually, it is simple. In Scotland, very, very clear. They've just basically gone, right, we're going to take 150 quid off the council tax bill for everyone. Really easy. Well, everyone who's eligible, of course. Nice and simple. In England, it's going to work in a couple of ways. Now, if you already pay your council tax by direct debit, which is a handy way to do it, but I know not everyone does this, but if you pay it by direct debit, the council already has your payment details on file and they will manually process or automatically process that 150 quid to your bank. So you don't have to do anything as long as you're eligible. If you don't pay by direct debit, it's probably still worth checking your council website and seeing if you can, there's time for you to set it up. Because if you do that, then you're not going to have to, it'll be in the program in what they're already doing and it'll come through to you. If you don't do that, or there isn't time to do that, or potentially I've heard from people that they're not able to set up a direct debit because they don't pay council tax, but they're in eligible property, but they therefore can't set up a direct debit for zero, then you're going to have to wait for the council to contact you, and they're going to explain how you then give them your payment details. Yeah, does that make sense? So they'll contact you, you then give them your payment details, they then verify it, and then they'll process that. Okay, and we'll come on to a second, and obviously it's not going to be fasted, but we'll come on to timings in a minute. Now, what you'll be really careful here is scammers. This is obviously going to attract a lot of scammers who are phoning people up saying, "Hiya, I'm calling about your council tax rebate. Just give me your payment details." And maybe they're trying to con you into giving more information, or maybe they're trying to suggest you have to pay money. No, none of that. Every council one that I've looked at so far, and I've looked at about a dozen different council websites in England, Scotland and Wales, they've all said they will not contact you by phone. So if anyone phones you about council tax rebate, that is not legit, okay? Hang up. You can always phone the council back from a number you find separately if you're worried about it, if you're not sure. But broadly, yeah, do not give any information over the phone to someone claiming to be from the council for this rebate. Similarly, emails. Now, they may contact you by email, so look out for that. But I would be very, very careful about clicking any links in there. What I would do, if that comes through and says, "Hey guys, you can now apply for send us your details," I would directly go to the council's website and look for the information on there. And you'd hope it'd be front and centre. Again, I've looked at about a dozen councils today. Some of them have got loads of information about what they know so far and how things are working. Some of them just say, we'll tell you soon. So, but hopefully when the information's out there, it'll be really easy to find. Do that. Or, of course, you could phone your council or go round to your council, drop by one of their offices to try and get that information. Be very careful about clicking any kind of links. Or it might come in the post. Okay, so that's probably where you most like to see things is via the post, but you might, depends how you've signed up for things, you might get it via email. The actual details of that kind of, again, not quite clear, and every council is doing it differently. So when will you get the money? Now, like I said at the top, I think anticipation when this was announced that maybe it will just come really quickly, really easily at the start of the month, start of April. Hasn't happened, because the 1st of April is the earliest that the money can come out. But it could be, looking at some of the examples I've seen so far, as late as June that you get the cash. And again, this is talking about the direct debit payments, not the people who are having to kind of send the information in later. That could be even later. In fact, they looked at the rules on the government website on gov.uk, and it says this money has to be paid by the end of September 2022. So I think they might be hold back on it and anticipate this could take some time. Hopefully not. Hopefully you might get yours in the next couple of weeks. Lambeth Council, for example, is potentially you could get yours in the middle of April. Or also with Lambeth Council, you might get yours at the end of May. They seem to have a couple of things going on depending on when your direct debit goes out of your account. And I think that kind of thing is repeated by lots of other councils. So with all these things, the best thing you can do is check your council's website, see what they say in terms of when it will be paid to you, and if there's anything you need to do to kind of jiffy that along. Now finally, that discretionary fund that I mentioned at the beginning, this has gone to England, Scotland and Wales, and Northern Ireland will all have some money. Obviously the Northern Ireland one is working slightly different, but the discretionary fund for England, Scotland and Wales, each council and local authority will have a certain amount of cash which they can give out as they see fit to people. Now you might already think this just for, and primarily I think this is just for people who are perhaps in bands E to H, who aren't eligible for the automatic £150 rebate, but they are on very, 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 very low incomes. They're on benefits perhaps, or maybe they're in that weird situation where they don't pay council tax, yet they might be able to kind of, be eligible for it a different way. That is fundamentally what this is for. However, also looking in the guidance from the government, it does say that the councils have the freedom, if they wish, to give extra money to people who are particularly struggling. So it may well be that if you are in bands A, B, C and D, and you get that 150 quid initially, and you are still really, really, really struggling, and we are talking here about the real kind of, extreme end of things, then you might be able to get more money from this fund. And there is another kind of support fund for people who are particularly vulnerable that has been dished out as well, which is worth 1 billion. So combined, if you are really, really struggling with your bills and other costs, there might be a way to get more money this way. Important thing to say here as well is that if you are in bands E to H, or if you're going for additional money, if your council allows it, of course, not every council will do this, you might not get 150 quid. You might just get some support towards your bills. Now you hope, fingers crossed, that if you are someone who is on the breadline and you're just in a property which isn't bands A, B, C and D, you'd get that 150 quid the same as everyone else. But it may well be that this sort of works out very case by case basis. Again, very, very, very little information on council websites about exactly how people are going to be applying for this, How it's then going to be handed out to people, I imagine you have to give them your payment details and it'll be sent to similar to people who don't pay direct debit in bands A to D. And nothing again about eligibility. And again, I think this really will change. So keep an eye on your council websites, your council social medias for this. If you haven't already, sign up for their newsletters on email. I've done that for my local council ages ago. It lets me know when the bins change around bank holiday and things like that. But it's well worth doing that so you get that information. My name is Andy Webb. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below your experience of getting the energy rebate. Has it been easy? Has it been a nightmare, even getting the information? And if you want to save more money on your bills, check out these videos here.